They whispered in shadows and moved with arrogance, thinking you were the one under the microscope, thinking you would crumble when the pressure rose, thinking that testing you would bring your truth to light. But what they never saw coming was this. The very act of testing you what revealed their own fractures. The moment they tried to break you, they shattered their illusion. And you stood taller, stronger, wiser, because pressure doesn't destroy the real. It burns away the false. They forgot that fire doesn't ruin gold. It reveals it. You were never the weak one. You were forged for this. And now the world sees what they never wanted it to see. Not your cracks, but theirs. They didn't expose your limits. They exposed their own envy, their fear, their desperate need to prove something at your expense. You didn't fall into their trap. You outlasted it. You didn't bend to their games. You rewrote the rules. And now they have to watch you rise, not in spite of them, but because of what they tried to do. If you're feeling this message deep in your chest, if your soul is nodding right now, then this isn't just a video. This is a turning point. Subscribe, like, comment, because this isn't just a message for you. It's a war cry for every soul that's been underestimated, every spirit that's been tested, every warrior that's been pushed to their edge. Let your name be counted among the relentless. The world needs your fire. Join this movement. Don't just watch from the shadows. Step into your story and own it. They studied you like a subject, poked and prodded and watched for signs of weakness, but they never realized. When you test something real, the only thing you expose is the shallowness of the ones doing the testing. They tried to challenge your purpose, your patience, your power. They thought they'd find a breaking point, but instead, they found a boundary. They found your line. They found where their manipulation ends and your truth begins. There's a strange kind of justice in life. The ones who try to pull you down often trip over the very rope they set at your feet. They wanted to drag your name through the mud, and now they're drowning in it. Because when you rise anyway, despite the lies, the doubts, the sabotage, you don't just win, you expose. Every act of envy becomes a confession. Every attempt to test you becomes a testimony of their own weakness. You don't need to fight back with words. You just keep moving. Let success speak. Let consistency scream. Let your resilience thunder louder than their silence ever could. Understand this. Your strength is not in how loud you shout or how hard you strike. Your strength is in your stillness, your silence, the way you take every stone thrown at you and build a kingdom with it, the way you let people think you're broken, all while building something unshakable. They wanted the world to see you fall, but the world watched you rise, and now their masks are falling. Their motives are naked. Their weakness is public, because they tried to test you and failed. There's a darkness in this world that whispers to the insecure. If they shine too bright, make them dim. But here's what they never counted on. The brightest lights were forged in the deepest shadows. They thought silence meant defeat. It meant focus. They thought absence meant surrender. It meant strategy. While they were mocking, you were building. While they were laughing, you were leveling up. They used their energy to talk about you. You used yours to transform. And now, the contrast is undeniable. This is your proof, your evidence that you didn't just survive. You transcended. And now that you've risen from the test, you're not just stronger, you're undeniable. And they're uncomfortable. Because the more you grow, the smaller their excuses sound. The more you win, the more their hate looks like insecurity in costume. You're not obligated to shrink, so they feel tall. You're not responsible for their inability to face your truth. You were made for the top, even when they tried to bury you at the bottom. They hoped your pain would silence you. Instead, it became your reason. They hoped the test would break you. Instead, it built you. And now, they're left with nothing but the echo of your name. A name they tried to erase, but now can't stop hearing. This is your era, your roar, your rise. Their whispers no longer matter, because while they were plotting, you were becoming. You didn't ask to be tested, but you didn't run from it either. You stood in the fire. You faced the storm. And somewhere in that chaos, something inside you shifted. You stopped needing to be understood. You stopped craving their validation, because you realized people only try to test what they don't understand, and they only try to break what they secretly fear. You weren't the subject of their curiosity. You were the mirror reflecting everything they lacked, and that truth terrified them. What they feared most wasn't your weakness, it was your strength. They tried to expose flaws that didn't exist, and in the process, revealed their own desperation. They couldn't break you, so they tried to distract others from your brilliance. They couldn't match your depth, so they tried to drown you in shallow criticism. But darkness can't snuff out the light. It only makes it more visible. And now the same voices that once doubted you, they fall silent in the weight of your presence. This isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. That gut feeling you had, that quiet knowing deep inside, it was real. You knew you were made for more. You knew you didn't belong in the shadows they kept assigning you to. And now the world is finally catching up to what your soul always screamed. They saw you as a risk because you didn't fit their mold. But you're not here to fit. You're here to redefine. And maybe they laughed when you started. Maybe they whispered behind your back. Maybe they rolled their eyes when you spoke your dream into existence. But now, they whisper your name with caution, because your rise wasn't loud. It was undeniable. You didn't need to announce yourself. You became the announcement. You didn't need to clap back. Your life clapped for you. And that kind of power, that kind of silent growth, terrifies the fake. Remember this. The people who tried to test you weren't enemies. They were messengers, carriers of lessons you needed to see. Without their doubt, you wouldn't have found this level of self-trust. Without their sabotage, you wouldn't have built this kind of resilience. They didn't destroy you. They deployed you into your strength, into your potential, into a version of yourself they couldn't see coming. And now they're left staring at the masterpiece they tried to erase. You owe them nothing. No apology, no explanation, no softening of your edges. If anything, you owe yourself everything. For staying solid when everything around you tried to shake you. For staying loyal to your path when shortcuts were tempting. For choosing discipline over distraction. You walked through hell, not for revenge, but for redemption. And that's what separates you. You don't move out of bitterness. You move from purpose. And that's why you win. Let them say what they want. Let them think what they will. Your legacy is being carved in silence, not tweets. Your impact is being built in private, not approval. You're not chasing claps. You're chasing something eternal. And that kind of focus, it's unshakable. It's lethal to the mediocre. It reveals every hollow excuse they use to stay stagnant. Because every time you rise, it reminds them of what they're not doing. And that's why they tried to test you. But they failed. Because your roots run deeper than their reach. Because your fire burns longer than their hate. Because your mission is bigger than their opinion. They thought they were the ones in control. But now, they're the ones exposed. And you're just getting started. So keep building, keep walking, keep rising. And when the next wave comes, smile. Because this time, you don't just survive the test. You are the test. You're the standard, the proof, the result they can't explain, the force they can't deny. They will try again. They always do not. Because they believe they'll succeed, but because they can't accept that you did. They can't accept that someone they once dismissed, someone they tried to discredit could rise this far and threaten the comfort of their small truths. But your existence is a disruption. Your energy disturbs the weak, not because you attack, but because you exist. As proof that silence is not weakness, patience is not passivity, and humility is not submission. You played their game quietly, and while they kept score, you rewrote the rules. They see the crown now, but they don't know what it cost. They see the strength now, but they never saw the pain. They tried to imitate the outcome without enduring the process. They wanted your results without carrying your weight, but you bore it all. The loneliness, the doubt, the dark nights that nobody talks about. And still you stood, not because it was easy, but because quitting never lived in your blood. And now they're scrambling, looking for new ways to undermine, to label, to frame your growth as luck, or timing, or external help. Anything but what it really is. Earned, built, suffered for. They can't say it out loud, but deep inside they know they tested you and failed. And in that failure, they exposed something terrifying. Their own limits and your limitless potential. This is why you must keep going. Not for revenge, not for recognition, but because your purpose is no longer negotiable. The mission chose you, and now you carry the responsibility of being the proof that the fire doesn't kill the strong. It sharpens them, that storms don't stop progress. They reveal direction. That rejection is not a wall, but a door that swings open only for the relentless. You are no longer someone chasing the light. You are the light they tried to extinguish, and now they hide from your glow. You are the voice they tried to silence, and now they echo your words. You are the standard they tried to ignore, but now they measure themselves against you, and all of this because they thought testing you would reveal your weaknesses, but instead you revealed their dependency on your downfall. You don't need to speak their names. Your wins speak for you. You don't need to clear your reputation. Your results defend you. You don't need to explain your process. Your consistency writes it in stone, and if they still doubt, let them. Your obligation is not to convince, but to continue. And that's the difference between them and you. They use energy to tear down while you use it to build. They thought exposure would damage you, but you were never hiding. You were waiting, preparing, aligning now. You are the consequence of everything they hoped would go wrong, but didn't you? Are the embodiment of what happens when faith meets discipline, when silence meets strategy, when pain meets purpose. And that kind of combination can't be stopped. There are people right now watching you, not out of admiration, but out of fear. They fear what you'll become because they remember who you were and they thought you'd stay there. But you evolved without asking for permission. You changed without needing validation. You grew without making noise, and now you walk with a power that makes them flinch. Not because you threaten them, but because you remind them of what they could be. If they stopped wasting time testing others and started testing themselves. But they won't, because that would require honesty. And honesty is the one test they can't pass. So they'll keep watching, keep questioning, keep hoping you'll fall, because your success makes their excuses look small, and your light makes their shadows look darker, and their games make your strength look even more undeniable. So let this be the turning point where you no longer explain why you are the way you are, where you no longer justify your decisions to people who were never qualified to understand them, where you no longer dim your intensity to comfort the average, where you stop negotiating with weakness and finally step into your unstoppable nature, fully, completely, unapologetically, because they already tried, they already tested, they already doubted, and they already lost. And now every time they see you win, it's not just a loss, it's a reminder, a sharp echo of their failure to break you, and that will haunt them more than anything. Let them remember every moment they tried to shake your foundation, because now every brick you lay is built on the ashes of their attempts. Let them watch as you rise with precision, not out of spite, but out of destiny. Let them feel the weight of their own words collapse under the pressure of your progress, because this is no longer about them, it's about you, becoming everything they said you couldn't, and more. This is your season, not just of survival, but of dominance, of quiet, conquering, of walking into rooms and shifting the temperature without saying a word, of letting presence replace explanation, of letting execution silence criticism, of becoming the question and the answer, the mystery and the evidence. And as they stumble back into the same traps they set for you, remember this one truth. The universe doesn't waste pain. The fire you walked through didn't just refine you, it anointed you. You're not just here to win, you're here to change what winning looks like. You're not just here to speak, you're here to make silence impossible. You're not just here to rise, you're here to raise others with you. And so I'll say this one more time. If this is hitting somewhere deep inside of you, if this message has lit something inside that you've buried for too long, don't walk away from this moment. Carry it, subscribe, like, and comment. Not just because it helps this message spread, but because it's a declaration to yourself that you are part of something greater, a fire bigger than yourself, a movement that does not flinch when tested, but thrives in it. Because from now on, you don't just walk into challenges, you welcome them. Not because you enjoy the war, but because you've become the storm. Because when you become the storm, you stop waiting for clear skies. You stop fearing the rain. You stop looking over your shoulder, wondering if they're still talking, if they're still watching, if they're still doubting, because you've reached a point where none of it matters. Not their approval, not their applause, not even their absence, because you finally understand you never needed any of it to begin with. They were never your source of strength. They were never your reason for beginning. And they damn sure won't be the reason you stop now. There's something dangerous about a person who remembers who they are. And now that you remember, it's over for them. No more explaining your drive, no more softening your ambition, no more shrinking your dream to fit their limited vision. You were never meant to fit in. You were built to expand beyond every box. They tried to keep you in. You were born with a different weight, a different fire, a different hunger. And they could sense that even when you couldn't. That's why they tested you, not to measure you, but to manage you, to keep you questioning, to keep you hesitating, to make you second guess what your soul already knew. But every time they doubted you, you found a deeper level of focus. Every time they pushed you back, you discovered a new gear, and now there's no turning back. Not because they say so, but because you've crossed the point of no return within yourself. This is what growth really looks like. Not perfection, not applause, but resilience. The kind that builds in silence and shouts through results. The kind that doesn't need a stage to feel valid. The kind that doesn't wait for permission to move. The kind that doesn't just survive fire, but becomes it. And now that you're here, burning, glowing, becoming, they're starting to realize it wasn't about testing you, it was about exposing them. They expose their own fear of your strength, their fear of being forgotten while you rise, their fear that your success leaves them behind. And the truth is it does not, because you would have taken them with you. You would have helped them, risen with them, encouraged them, grown beside them, if they had chosen love over envy, but they didn't. And now it's too late, because this version of you isn't stopping to pull anyone out of the pit they dug for themselves. You've seen too much, you've been through too much, and you've come too far to go back to playing small. You've already walked through fire once, and you didn't die. So why would you fear walking through it again? Fire is not the enemy. It's the proof. It's the test that burns away the lie and leaves only what's real. And you are real. That's why you're still standing. So keep going, keep building, keep becoming. And when they talk, because they will, let them talk, because now their words are just background noise to your purpose. Now their doubt is just static compared to the clarity in your soul. Now their tests are just fuel, because every time they try again, they only reveal more of what they lack and more of what you are. And you are endurance. You are precision. You are the aftermath. They didn't expect the result. They couldn't predict the force they couldn't contain. The lesson they never wanted to learn. You didn't just pass the test. You became the standard they measure themselves against. You didn't just survive the fire. You became the blueprint of how to build in the ashes. You didn't just walk through the storm. You became the voice that silences thunder. And now, every move you make echoes louder than anything they tried to do to you. Because this isn't about revenge. This isn't about proving them wrong anymore. This is about living in your power and letting your very existence become the loudest proof that no lie can outlive the truth, and no test can outlast the one who was born to rise. And if you feel that, if you feel it in your chest like thunder, if something inside you is shaking, waking, roaring right now, don't keep this to yourself. Share it, subscribe, like, and comment, because this is more than a message. It's a mirror to your higher self, a reminder that the very things that were meant to break you only built you into someone unbreakable. You didn't just survive their test, you transcended it. You broke through ceilings. They tried to bury you under, and now you're building a home at the top. And while they scrambled to catch up to the version of you, they never believed in you. Continue forward, unbothered, undeterred, and undeniable, because you are no longer the one being tested. You are now the one rewriting the questions. You are the storm. They can't predict the lesson. They didn't study for the proof they never wanted to face. They tried to test you, and in doing so, they exposed everything weak inside themselves and everything unshakable inside you. And now you know the truth. They never had the power. They just hoped you'd never realize you did. But now you have, and you'll never forget it again. Keep rising. And so now, as the dust settles and silence replaces their noise, let this truth sink in. They didn't break you. They built you. They didn't expose your limits. They revealed your legacy. They didn't end you. They awakened something unstoppable within you. From this moment forward, you owe no one an explanation, no one an apology, no one your light dimmed to make their darkness comfortable. You walk with the weight of every trial survived, every scar earned, every doubt overcome. And that weight is not a burden, it is your crown. Wear it, walk forward. Let the world adjust to your fire, because you're no longer becoming, you are.